And then I think there's maybe a few other things we can talk about. And forgive me, I'm just going to use my phone because it's where my agenda is. And we had quite a number of people cancel tonight or say that they weren't able to make it. So I won't even worry about having a quorum because we're not taking any votes tonight. But just a couple of things I just wanted. It was more for an awareness issue. The first thing was the zoning ordinance amendment on data centers. John, it looked like this had passed your group a couple weeks ago in early June, and I guess it was going before the board maybe sometime in July. Just try to strengthen the rules and requirements for data centers in Fairfax County, where most of it was by right in the I districts, the industrial districts, and the county was just looking to try to strengthen some of the rules and regulations, specifically as it relates to them being near residential areas. We've seen a data center in this group. If you remember on Sunrise Valley Drive, the core data center came in, and that was approved. There's another data center along the Dulles Toll Road that the old AOL data center, but believe it or not, there's still some industrial zoned property in Reston that has been eyed for data center. I don't know if it would ever go that way with where the market is, but it's just something for us all to be aware of.
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody has any comments on that. Richard Kennedy. Richard, try to unmute yourself there. Hey, Richard, you're still muted. Let me try to see if I can change that.
Up in the top corner of your border, your computer, top right, is camera and mic.
Okay, yes, thank you.
There you
There
go.
you go. There you go.
I just simply wanted to ask, we don't have many anyway, relative to Loudoun County, right?
Well, so yeah, certainly not relative to Loudoun County. It's hard to beat them from a data center standpoint. There's just a couple select
wouldn't want
areas. Well, they're a good tax basis apparently, but no, it's just something to just be aware of, and it probably deals with more other areas of Fairfax than necessarily Reston.
Okay, that's all I want. Thank you.
But there are quite a few in Sully District and along 28. So this is a concern. One of the big issues is the power required to run these. And I understand, John Carter, you may know better, that there are some built that are not yet serviced by enough power to run them. So the other thing I heard, and I don't have any veracity to this, but with technology changing, the form of data centers is going to radically change, and then we're going to get stuck with these things. And the setback from residential is huge. It is a huge issue for noise, light, and water pollution. So, our water resources, our power resources are of concern. You really do, even though it's not Reston right now, it can be. We need to pay attention to these. Thank you.
Not likely to see them here in Reston. You need, the new ones have a lot of land. They're very land intensive as well as power intensive. And yes, Sully has been focus of these data centers to date. We do have a couple. They're nice ones in Reston, I think.
Yeah.
So we're unlikely to see them in Reston. Now that I've said one, we'll get one tomorrow.
Oh,
I just
Mark,
shared
thanks.
a map of all the zoning districts where data centers are allowed by magisterial district. So it should open to the page for Hunter Mill. You can also see the county-wide. That being said, PRC is all technically allowed, at least right now, but it has to be shown on the development plan. So it's, it's not really allowed by right in PRC, but that is highlighted on this map.
Thanks, Mark.
And they can't be in transit station areas. That's, no.
So the next item I just wanted to highlight was the Wiehle Avenue pedestrian transportation study that's underway by Fairfax County Department of Transportation. I know several of us attended the second meeting that they had up at, gosh, where was that? The middle school. The Office of Transportation did a nice job at presenting 3 different layouts and was just asking for feedback from the community. Not so much, they had a lot of different ideas on the different concepts, and they recognized they could mix and match some of the concepts, when it comes right down to it, depending on the what the community thought, and just the way that this was starting to be viewed by everybody. I'll just note one of the comments had a radical like roundabouts at Sunrise Valley Drive and at Sunset Hills Road, and boy, that I think that got a lot of comments in and of itself. But I think they were asked to just look at that and see what it would look like. Not so much that they were advocating a roundabout at any one of those intersections, but most of the ideas had to deal with narrowing the lanes of Wiehle Avenue, possibly eliminating a lane in each direction, trying to create more areas for bicycles and trees, and more pedestrian-friendly environment. And a lot of that had to do with lessening the distance that it requires people to cross the road, because that's what takes all the time at a pedestrian light, waiting for those people to cross the road. So the more you can reduce that distance, that helps the pedestrian. But we all know that Wiehle gets a lot of traffic, and so there's a bit of a it's probably a multi aspect approach for that. But my understanding, if you go to the county website, they're still open for comment, and you can go in there and actually share your comments. You can vote on various elements of the plan, and I recommend highly that you do that, just to get some feedback to Fairfax County Department of Transportation. Anybody have any comment on that? Yes, Lynn?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, and I did notice that Dick Kennedy's hand was up before me, so I didn't want to speak out of turn. Unless that was an old hand.
That might have been an old hand.
Okay. Well, I did want to share with the group that Reston's certain board members from Reston Citizens Association did meet with Fairfax County DOT staff to get a better understanding of what they were trying to do. And it was made pretty clear that any roundabout at Wiehle and Sunset Hills was probably not going to work. It might work at Sunrise Valley, but not Sunset Hills. And they did mention that the 3 concepts that they had put forth were just concepts that they thought that the community should consider, and that they are still open to getting comments from the community, that those 3 concepts are not carved in stone. So we have been heavily promoting this comment period to the general community in Reston, and asking people to provide comments back to Fairfax County DOT staff. And we also reached out to Reston Association and asked them to include that in their Friday newsletter, which they did, and we're so appreciative. So, yeah.
Thanks, Lynn. Any other comment on that? Any questions about that?
So, Rob, this is Jared. We were at that meeting, and they also, one interesting thing that we debriefed on at the end was they also talked about the soapstone connector. Remember, that was one of their comments
Sure.
about that Was it, what did they say, like that was potentially going to be done in like 28 or 29, somewhere in that time
Correct.
frame?
Correct.
And that was, it's an interesting component of the design solution, because what they're thinking is if the soapstone connector is done over the toll road, that'll lessen the traffic on Wiehle also, which makes this a more viable solution. But I think that was an interesting takeaway for us that were there. We're like, oh, we didn't know that was planned to be that quick.
Well, and the question is, where did they get the billions of dollars that is going to cost? Have heard no funding source for that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any information on the soapstone other than, you know, that there were certainly designs for it that have been done. There was some impact to some of the neighboring properties on both sides. I think the preferred alignment goes through one of the buildings on the north side of the toll road. But beyond that, I don't know how pressing that really is at this point. Especially since we've seen some of the development proposals along the toll road kind of they're a little bit they're just on pause, I think, because of the market right now, quite frankly. And some of the higher density development, with the exception of Reston Station, I think is just waiting things out a little bit. And but we'll just all have to keep our eyes and ears open to more about that. We probably could ask more specific questions to FC dot to know if that timetable is truly on target or not. John, I don't know if you know anything more about the soapstone connector.
I don't. There are designs. I've seen the designs for it. These things take forever. I think this Wiehle Avenue thing started about 5 years ago when Cornerstone's project came to the Planning Commission. So it just takes forever to get there. There is $100,000 for DOT to look at interim solutions along Wiehle. And I don't, they haven't come up with anything yet, but there is some things that perhaps we ought to think about doing in the short term before we even think about narrowing lanes or getting across the bridge or whatever it is we're going to solve. But there's some interim solutions, and frankly, you can't get across very rapidly where Reston Station Boulevard crosses Wiehle. That's very dangerous. And I'll just tell you a personal thing that happened to me. It wasn't an accident quite, although it almost was. That double left, these double lefts that we have, particularly going from Wiehle to going northbound on Wiehle, turning left on Sunset Hills. It's a double left there. But one of the lefts, people don't pay that much attention to. They go straight through, which happened almost to me. I was turning left and somebody was supposed to be turning left and they didn't.
Oh boy.
So there is some problems there. So I don't know where they're going to come up with. I'd like to actually personally go back to them and just see what's up and whether we could do something in the interim and where they're actually going with the whole Wiehle study. But as I said, it's taken 5 years to just get to 3 alternatives, which is not exactly a rapid pace.
John, I'm glad you brought that up. There was a comment made at the FCDOT meeting by a young man, and I'm not sure if his comment was quickly dismissed, but he actually had a decent idea when I thought more about it. He said, couldn't we just try to go out and do like a test case of some of these ideas in terms of the narrowing of the roads or doing some of the features in, he said, I think he said use Jersey barriers, but you could do it all kind of different ways on an interim basis that's not permanent, but it's trying things out, and it's a novel idea. I mean, that still has a cost to it, and you'd still have to put signage and get everybody on board with it, but some of these ideas of narrowing lanes and doing different things, the question is, will it work, and will it, in like parking along both sides of Wiehle, we all think, whoa, wait a minute, but to Jared's point, if they build the soapstone connector, then does Wiehle become a little bit less of the main thoroughfare? I think we'd have to wait that out. We'd have to see if time really permitted that or not, but because there is a lot of density being put right there on Wiehle. So anyway, I thought that was not such a bad idea.
Well, there are double lefts and double rights on Wiehle. Those would be, I would think, if you want to try something out, would be eliminate a double right or a double left. I noticed the double right, where if you're going south and turning on Reston Station Boulevard, is not used. People using that use both lanes. They don't really, it's not really 2 lanes, even though it's designed as 2 lanes. People just drive in the middle. So that's one that you could eliminate right away. I think one of the main things is getting across that bridge.
Yeah, for certain. So the next item I just had on the agenda was just making this a little bit more of an awareness thing, but also just for comment. My understanding is Reston Association has been trying to create their own land use committee, and it sounded like almost duplicate what we do as a committee here in Reston. Now, obviously, we're independent of Reston Association, but I think over the years we've been a good advocate for Reston Association. I think some other people took exception to that, but I think we've been kind of fair for a long time. But so I don't know how much success they're having formulating that committee. I guess my initial thought was, gosh, maybe we should, reach out and try to make sure that the new leadership at Reston Association was well aware of our track record. But I haven't done anything to date with that, and was just interested in what the group thought. Tammy?
The committee has been formed. Our very own famous Michelle Kimmel is the chair of it, and my husband Bob is a member of it. So it is up and running. And Michelle, do you have any comment?
Not really. I do think that the goal is not to duplicate this, but rather to help Reston Association better formulate the Reston Association point of view on development and cases coming forward. Larry's no longer there, and I think he did a good bit of that work on behalf of the association. But I think there is now a desire that the RA board be more involved, and that this, be treated like pretty much everything else that Reston Association does, and more membership driven. So I don't think that there needs to be necessarily any concern that there's a duplication, more so just helping Reston Association formulate Reston Association's opinion.
Michelle, can you speak to like how do we instruct applicants? How do applicants know where that fits in the process, I guess is my question.
I mean, it fits in the same way here. I mean, this is just an ad hoc committee. There's no, because Supervisor Alcorn has, and because Commissioner Carter has them come to us, they do so. And if they want to go to Reston Association's land use committee, they can do that as well. So I don't know that you have to, I think that Reston Association will be reaching out and encouraging applicants to come and speak to the association, and then they also come here. So it's both. I don't know that it would probably make sense for a Reston Association meeting to occur first, so you could also hear RA's position. Ours tend to be pretty late in the process when actual voting occurs. So, but as we all know, it gets a little complicated when things move somewhat quickly. So I don't know that there has to be a formal go here first, then there but that's just my personal opinion. I don't have anything to say by any means officially.
Yeah, I see Lynn has a question. I just want to make sure we're all able to communicate. Like just a quick follow-up is, do you anticipate Reston Association commenting on land use that's outside of Reston Association's owned property?
I think as they have in the past, they would continue to. I think so, yes.
Okay, okay. Lynn, do you want to follow up?
Yeah, thank you, Rob. And Michelle, thank you for that explanation, because I was pretty confused as well. But, I know, Larry Butler was a regular attendee of our P&Z committee meetings. And, I felt that he did a great job representing Reston Association during those meetings. And, I'm just wondering if it might not be more efficient to have an assigned designee from Reston Association continuing to represent on our Reston P&Z committee calls.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Michelle, would that be you now that you're chair of their committee? Or
Yeah.
I don't want to volunteer you for something that.
No, I mean, I haven't been appointed by anyone to do that. It seems above my pay grade, but I'm happy to go back and say that that's been requested. This was a board driven initiative. So I just would have to check with the RA staff and the RA board.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? Richard Kennedy.
Yes, I agree generally with Lynn's comments. And clearly, I mean, the big difference is that the covenant requirements that Reston Association is required to operate and is very important to Reston. It's of course where it's covenants apply, and there's some overlap there. So I think that's a key thing. But for developers, the developers we see having to go through another step is not good for either of us, I don't think. But the idea of having someone that is fully aware of any beliefs that come up to them in their general situation as the Reston Association and the important things that it flies is good. But if we get used to what we had before with a representative from the Reston Association being involved in all our meetings and being prepared to speak for things that he thinks his or her programs are going to be interested in. So those are my comments.
Thanks, Richard. Any other comments? And then when we move on, I've already lost my agenda on my phone. So I think the next thing was I just wanted to make everybody aware that Fairfax County recently changed their stormwater management policies, and it has a really big impact on development moving forward. So as of if construction on a project that was previously approved has not started construction by June 30th of this year, which is coming, next week, basically the project would be subject to the new regulations for stormwater. And when DEQ came out with their guidance, that all the jurisdictions, the local jurisdictions, then utilized for their guidance. Basically, DEQ no longer is allowing kind of like the grandfathering of old stormwater management ponds. So what that means is new developments moving forward, they either have to put in new facilities for stormwater, or they have to go back and do retrofits of their older stormwater systems and bring them up to today's current regulation. And that is a very difficult thing to do, to go backwards and take old ponds designed to a different period and a different criteria and try to bring those up to today's standards. So I just bring that to everybody's attention because that's going to start adding, could add a great deal of cost to projects in Reston that once benefited from, and I'm not so much thinking of the lakes in Reston, I'm thinking more about the projects that just had stormwater management systems downstream that they were still utilizing for the next phase of development, and how that's going to be just harder and harder to do moving forward. I don't know, any questions on that?
I was just thinking about the ponds at Fannie Mae, actually.
That, so that would be a good example of, yeah.
Where does the Fannie Mae project stand, John Carter? Do you know? Are they in hiatus or what's the deal?
I think they're all the way through their approvals. They're just sitting on that.
Okay.
I do see some ropes over there. I was by there today. So there seems to be some activity, but
Well, I can tell you that the neighborhood that abuts the Fannie Mae property has been complaining about the lack of maintenance of those ponds. And actually, I think, John, you met the one of the neighbors that goes out with her garbage bag and cleans up the ponds, whereas the owner should be doing that as part of the proffers. So,
yeah, I've met a few people out there. I'm over there every now and then
Good.
myself.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, then the other thing was just the status of the SSPA projects that are in Reston. I think there was some belief that come sometime this summer, I think staff would be in a position to kind of, I don't know, prepare their reports or whatever. I'm not that exact familiar with the process to determine what the next steps are. I do know that quite a number of rezonings are basically held up waiting for the SSPA process for that process to go through its run its course before applicants can then turn it into a true rezoning, which is then would likely steer more applications our way once the SSPA process is completed.
They're all out there working away. I think EYA and the Lake Fairfax Business Park is going to have some meetings, I think, in July coming up. I don't think they've selected a specific date, but I know they're out there requesting certain dates. But, the SSPAs in other parts of the county have been occupying the staff time, I think, quite a lot. So we haven't seen very much movement on the SSPAs for the Reston area yet. You have anything else, Mark, about that? I don't think any of them are quite ready to go.
Yeah, I believe for one in particular, one of the smaller ones, Roland Clark Place, we're expecting a staff recommendation, I think by mid-July. So I don't know if all of the four kind of smaller ones, aside from Lake Fairfax Business Park, if we're going to get recommendations for all of those in mid-July. I think also the way Lake Fairfax relates to some of the other SSPA nominations is kind of maybe slowing down how we do how staff will do the analysis, because do we approach them together? Do we approach them, as separate pieces? So I think some of those questions are being discussed in the background among staff. That's the impression that I get from conversations with staff.
I hear very little about them. I think so.
Well, I guess we'll just stay tuned and
Yeah.
wait
They'll-
for
they'll
things
be
to
here in the
continue to
fall,
shake out.
certainly. They will be here in the fall, and we'll have plenty to do.
And I do believe that P and Z will be part of the next phase of public engagement.
Yes.
You know, so I'll definitely, you know, be giving a lot of notice when those will be presented.
So Mark, if you were to map out any one of those applications, is the SSPA similar to a rezoning, or is it going to go through staff like report and comment, and then does it go through public hearings? And
SSPA is a comprehensive plan amendment,
correct.
followed by a rezoning, followed by site plan. So it's comparable to the comp plan, not a zoning case.
But John, what's the approval process of the SSPA before they can go to zoning in your mind?
The comp plan amendment.
Right, but who is it? Is that a planning commission and a board action?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so those are two public hearings at least there, and then
Yeah.
would you anticipate
And your
like a
full-blown community aspect of it too, that a comp plan gets. So you have the community meetings, a series of them, then reviewed by the planning commission and the board of supervisors.
Okay, so if county staff is just making some of their recommendations in the summer or late summer, then yeah, so then that would mean community outreach in the fall, and then
Yes.
approval could be, likely next year then.
That's right.
Okay, just making sure I keeping a scorecard here.
And somewhere P and Z would fit into all of that. You're not going to miss out on that.
Okay. All the
But
fun.
yeah, the other
all the
parts of
fun.
the county seem to be more active than our area. Staff is working on those. The AT&T long lines there in Oakton, that's a big controversial one that's occupying a lot of time. There are other ones. There is sometimes an attempt to do comp plan and the zoning at the same time, but I think we're going to resist that.
Okay. All right. Other things to talk about. Lynn?
Oh, sorry. I think Tammy's hand was up first.
Go
I
ahead,
hear
Lynn. Go ahead, Lynn.
I just wanted to say that we really haven't had an opportunity to talk about the new website. I know, thank you to Jared and geez, I can't remember who helped with that. It's been so long ago.
Well, you did the bulk of the work, and then Jared and Mike Jennings and
Mike Jennings,
Wade
yes,
did,
thank you. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone felt that it was meeting the needs of the committee. And if you haven't had a chance to go look at it, just do a search for Reston Planning and Zoning Committee. It's hosted on GoDaddy. It is a free GoDaddy. I did pay I think $10.99 or whatever it was for the domain name. So that was my gift to the committee. So, but if y'all have a chance, please take a look at it. And, I would love to get your feedback and make it as functional as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, Lynn, again, thank you for all your hard efforts in getting that teed up and launched. And we'll probably it'll be kind of like a test case over time to try to see how we can utilize it and best populate it. And but it's a great start. It's a lot better than where we used to be. So really appreciate it.
Oh, you're most welcome. And the thing that we want to make sure is that it's also a tool that the builders and developers and land use attorneys are able to use as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Tammy, did you have a comment?
Yes, a week ago, Monday, Walter had a town meeting on the green at RTC North. It was pretty interesting. And there is a survey out asking Reston residents, and even if you're not a Reston resident, what features you'd like to see in that green. One thing that all of us need to keep in mind is that green is 3.5 acres, and the elevation change between the border of that green is 23 feet. The low part is the southwest corner, and it elevates 23 feet to the northeast corner. So it's not a flat parcel, and that's going to obviously affect the features that can go on that green. Lila was there from the RCC, and she made a very interesting comment that if public events are wanted there, there needs to be pullover spots for vehicles serving the performers, restrooms, and electricity. And I was appreciative of her for saying, giving those details. But I thoroughly encourage you, as much as the Wiehle survey, to go to Walter Alcorn's website, and you'll see the survey on this. And Mark, maybe you can put the address in the chat for people who didn't attend that meeting. But the powers that be want to know what features the community would like to have there, and what fitness or passive recreation or events or whatever. But that elevation change is huge, and that needs to be taken into account. So I just wanted to mention that.
Can you tell me what the deadline is on that, Tammy? Do you know?
I don't know. Mark, do you know?
July 10th.
Thank
Okay.
you. Okay. So I'll make sure that Reston Citizens Association adds that to their community outreach as well. Thank you.
Yeah, that meeting was not televised. So if anybody has questions, get a hold of me. I'm happy to share what we learned there. But the big thing is to answer the survey. Persons who live closer will have more impact on their answers will have more impact than those of us who live way far away. But everybody's opinion is asked for. So, and there's a map that when you answer the survey, they'll say, are you in A, B, C, D, E, whatever. So it's quite interesting. And then they went over what the RTC North blocks will be, how they will be, what will go on those blocks. And you'll see that in the survey. So a lot of people aren't aware of that. Elementary school, rectangular playing field, rec center, library, health and human services, the revised or rebuilt homeless shelter with supportable housing. So that you'll see maps, and you'll see what blocks those are going to go on. Quite interesting. And then of course, Inova will have blocks 2, 4, and 6 on the east side. And that's where they will carry on with whatever their plans end up being.
Tammy, two quick questions. The end date for this survey, again, I didn't hear it.
What was that? July 10th? Is that, Mark, what you said?
July 10th. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. July 10th. Thank you.
Yes.
And has the other group given us any idea what they want to build there? They're part of the development area?
You mean Inova?
Yeah.
Inova has 1,000 dwelling units and 180,000 square feet of commercial or retail. Is that correct, John?
That's correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
so on
And they're
those 3
working-
blocks.
And these developments are working together with the
Yes.
county, right?
Yes, and Nova
Okay.
actually owns a portion of the Civic Green.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, and when the final, that was very clear in the meeting that when the final portions of the land, actually the deeds change hands, they will not own any of the Civic Green. It'll be all county owned. There was a conversation about who will maintain the Civic Green, and that's important. Also, there's a road, small road between the north part of the Civic Green and the school site, and that is planned to be private. The rest will be VDOT roads. So those were interesting details.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Tammy.
Oh, sure.
Does anybody have anything else they wanted to bring up?
I've got something for you, Rob.
All right, John. Yep.
We had I guess you know, I've started this placemaking, look at our placemaking in Fairfax County as an initiative of the Planning Commission. And we had a 2-day workshop last week, Thursday and Friday, to go over that and what the recommendations might be. The recommendations aren't out, but some of the things that came up were, we've asked for these large parks at each metro station and at some of the activity centers, but the county doesn't have money to buy land. And so how do you get those large parks? And that's a comp plan function primarily, I would think, to get it started. Also, what comes up is the calculation, the urban park standards. The director of parks was there, who I worked with in Montgomery County for a little while. And I think everybody's agreeing that we need to take a look at those again, that we're getting an awful lot of these pocket parks that are too small to amount to anything. We have some large ones like the town center parks and Mosaic District and maybe Fairfax Corner, but we're not going to get too many of those multiple block developments anymore. So a look at what is it that we actually want in those, and a little more clear definition of what a park could be. And then the streets, starting with the intersections that are unsafe the way they're designed today, and we need to fix those. We might start with Reston Station Boulevard at Wiehle anyway, but so a number of other things, lights and trees, we're not getting. There are changes between the zoning cases and when they get finally approved at site plan. So we're going to try to tackle several of those items. There'll be a report coming out shortly as a result of the 2-day workshop. And then we'll spend the rest of this year and next year working on what will hopefully be some good recommendations for changes to the way we do things in terms of placemaking. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, John, thanks for doing that. Lynn?
I just want to, John, I want to thank you so much for taking that on. I think one of the things, and I know as probably one of the short timers on Reston Planning and Zoning Committee, one of the things that I've noticed is that the number of waivers and modifications to the design standards and the planning principles are it just blows my mind that, we have these standards in place, but they're getting waivers and modifications so that they get out of having to provide what it is they need to be providing. So thank you so much for doing that. And I hope that getting rid of the waivers and modifications as it pertains to open space will go away.
Yeah, that the urban park standards, which was a good attempt at doing
Yeah.
things, but they're not as clearly written as they should be.
Mm-mm.
And that's where these waivers come into play. And yes, they are taking advantage of us quite a lot. And it's a
Yeah.
moving target on what's required. So hopefully we'll straighten that out.
Yeah,
But
thank
it's tough
you.
sledding. All of these things are tough sledding. It's just like that Wiehle Avenue. 5 years to get 3 alternatives. I don't know.
All right, I do not have any other items to discuss.
Hey, Bob, I have my hand up. I have one thing, if I may, back to Reston Town Center North. The Reston Association did send a letter, and for those on the call, just a reminder, there is a memorandum of understanding, an MOU with the association, the county, and I believe Inova, that civic green or the open space in Reston Town Center North will be 10 acres. So this 3.5 that's being floated right now is significantly lacking from what was envisioned for this area and what has been promised for this area. So I think that's probably on the association's website. I don't know, but you should probably review that and be aware that the 3.5 isn't as great as it sounds.
Tammy, do you have a comment? Tammy, you're muted.
The 10 acres was discussed. The 3.5 is the green only. There is open space that amounts to 10. They're unfortunately using that crazy drainage pond across the street on the northwest corner as part
Edgewater
of
Park.
the 10.
Edgewater Park.
Yes,
Yeah.
I call it Lake Hudgens. That was added in to make the 10 acres. Then there are some other tree save areas and so on and so forth that I agree with you, Michelle. We should fight for as much as we can get. Inova's aware. Inova made the point that they want their property marketable. So they are going to, be adding open space to their 2, 4, and 6 lots. But, and then also the rectangular field, which will be where the library and the current library and the current homeless shelter, Emery Rucker, that will be a rectangular field that will count as open space. So, and that's a regulation size rectangular field. So when you put the parcels together, they add to the 10 acres.
I understand that, but the drainage pond across the road is not part of the MOU and would not count. So I think that if there is desire to advocate, then that doesn't count as part of it. But just flagging that not everything is presented is necessarily how everyone views it. Also, I think there is probably good reason to consider the fact that the majority of what's being floated to actually appear in Reston Town Center North will take years, if not decades, to ever come to fruition.
Correct.
And so, for those, again, considering truly advocating for the community, we might think about really encouraging, temporary uses or things that could be done. So we're not just left with basically abandoned fields where unhoused people take up residence.
Good points.
Dick Kennedy?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I don't want to just ask you to discuss it at all now, but I'm concerned about climate issues. The idea that the county is not, it would be allowing gas services in a new building. It's before us that won't be built for 3 to 5 years. That we've got to find a way to to get that. I know it's a political issue, but I think it's got to be addressed, and it comes up from time to time for us. But that's and green roofs as well. But that's all. I just wanted to make sure that continues to be issues that we are trying to change. Thanks.
Thanks, Richard. All right, any other comments? As I said at the beginning, I do anticipate that we will not meet in July or August because there's just no land use applications before us. So that's why I kind of wanted to meet tonight, kind of do it for the beginning of the summer, and then maybe we'll take two months off and regroup in September. So that'll be the game plan.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, thanks for getting us together.
I think that's just background noise. Is that?
Yep.
All right. Well, listen, everybody, have a good evening, and
Thank you.
appreciate you all
Thanks.
joining in and having a good discussion.
Okay.
Take care.
Good to meet you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, all.
Have a great summer.
Thanks
Bye.
again, Mark, for doing this tonight.
Bye-bye.
No problem. Thanks. Take care.